Hi, my name is Dr. Jeff Harris. I am a psychologist in New Mexico in the southwestern part of the United States. This is a demonstration video for Key Strategies Lesson 6, using behavioral strategies to explore actions. In a few moments, my colleague Karunakar Rao from Bangalore, India, will be doing a role play with me. But let me show you a little bit about the skills that I'm hoping to demonstrate. So I hope that you watched the didactic video describing these 4 strategies for exploring actions. The behavioral strategy 1, focusing on actions. Behavioral strategy 2, understanding triggers, functions, and impact. Behavioral strategy 3, analyzing effectiveness. And behavioral strategy 4, discovering patterns of reinforcement. So that's what I'm going to be trying to demonstrate. And I hope as you observe this demonstration, if you can keep track of which of these you saw me use. So this is Karunakar, and Karunakar is going to be portraying a client named Raju who experiences social anxiety. So in this role play, let's go ahead and start the role play. So Raju, we've been talking a little bit about your social anxiety and your kind of social isolation. And I want to start on those. I want to look particularly this week at your actions. So when you interact with other people socially, what does that look like?
When I interact with others, it looks something difficult for me.
Okay, it's difficult. And do you interact with people at work? Do you interact with people in your family?
Yeah, whatever I interact with in the family little bit, but at workplace also very. I try to interact with only 1 or 2 people with whom I have to compulsorily interact.
With whom what?
A few people, colleagues with whom I interact, but rarely, depending on the necessity, I
Okay.
interact.
Okay, so only when necessary. And so we've talked about when you feel anxious, you tend to avoid social situations and isolate yourself. So can you describe a recent time when you had an opportunity to connect with someone socially, but then you withdrew?
Yeah, recently there was tea organized at workplace, tea party, and it was so many people will be there. So I was from the morning that day I was feeling anxious, and I was trying to think about excuses for not attending the tea party. So finally, I made an excuse and I absented myself for that period.
Okay. So when you had an opportunity for social interaction to go to a tea party at work, you felt anxious. The opportunity to socialize, or the expectation that you should socialize, made you anxious, and then you made an excuse and withdrew. So when you made an excuse and decided, I don't have to go to the party, what happened then?
Yeah, that time I did not really have any work, and I withdrew. I went to home and locked up myself in my room, and I was feeling anxious also, at the same time guilty also.
Also, you
I
felt
was
anxious, but also
I was feeling I was feeling relief that I did not attend, but also feeling guilty.
Okay. So that's interesting. So when you avoided an anxious situation, you felt relief. The anxiety went down, but then you also felt guilty that you didn't go.
Yes, yes,
Okay. So this is interesting. So I think this is important because when you when you engage in this avoidance behavior, when you have a anxious situation, so the party triggered the anxiety, and when you were thinking about going to this work party, it made you feel anxious, and so you avoided it by making an excuse. And then there's a relief. So the anxiety goes down, but then you felt guilty that you didn't go.
yes, exactly.
So it's interesting. The avoidance behavior is reinforced, is likely to increase because it takes away the anxiety, but then another feeling comes by with the guilty. Tell me why you felt guilty, Karunikar. What was going on with the feelings of guilt?
Yeah, it was the tea party given in honor of outgoing. I mean, the colleague he was going out to different place on posting. It was a farewell tea party,
Okay.
and I should have attended.
Okay. So that's interesting that on the one hand, the short term gain is I'm feeling anxious. Oh, I don't have to go and I feel relieved. you know. Phew. But then you thought about your colleague and saying farewell to him. And the reason we have work parties to say farewell is to thank people and honor them for their service. And then you felt guilty that you weren't able to honor your colleague like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
So when we think about whether the avoidant behavior, avoiding social situations, whether it's effective or not, it sounds like in the short term, it decreases your discomfort, but then it has other unintended impacts like feeling guilty that you weren't able to say farewell to a colleague. So So
Mm.
what, in terms of changing this pattern of social anxiety or social isolation, what do you think what would we need to change in terms of of rewards or reinforcement in terms of trying to change this pattern?
Yeah, I think if I can get some happiness instead of anxiety while meeting people, um, it would be better. But I feel anxious when I meet.
Yeah. And I think that as we try and change this pattern, it will be important to practice in situations that do bring you happiness and gradually increase your comfort over time. So I think it'll be a little bit of a practice, a little bit of exposure as you're exposed to the threatening situation. That time will decrease over time. So the next time we meet, I think that it'll be really important to start. So we've talked about the avoidance behavior today, but I think it is going to be important that we start looking at the social situations that you can engage in and what you can do to gradually increase your comfort, gradually increase the frequency, gradually increase the duration of those social interactions. Because with practice and exposure, for most people, the anxiety will go down. So the next time we meet, I think we should talk about changing those actions and moving past the pattern of avoidance and trying to embrace the pattern and practice and increase the contact with other people. How does that sound?
Yeah, if it happens, it would be very good for me.
Okay, but we'll go slow and steady with that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So let's go back and look at that list of strategies. So I want you to think about the work I just did with Raju, portrayed by Karunakar. What did I do to focus on actions? What did I do to try to understand the triggers and functions and impact? Did you see me analyzing the effectiveness of the actions? Did you see me try to discover patterns of reinforcement? So in this video, I think that you'll know that I focused on avoidance as an action. And we looked at a specific example where Raju had a work event to go to that created anxiety. And we talked about how the avoidance, in this point, the avoidance served as negative reinforcement. So reinforcement is any consequence that makes the behavior more likely. And in this case, the avoidance takes away the anxiety. So the removal of the aversive anxiety increases the avoidance behavior. So that's what we were doing here in terms of exploring the actions, particularly the avoidance. And so when in the next lesson, we'll talk about changing actions, and we'll look at specifically at the opposite of avoidance, which is approach. And we'll talk about how to use a behavioral approach to increase this. I want to emphasize that we're teaching, demonstrating, and practicing these things in isolation, but in practice, you will be working interactively with thoughts and feelings and actions. So there was a point when, I asked Raju what was going on with the guilty feelings, and I could have gone cognitively. Raju said I should have gone. So we're veering into the cognition. For the sake of this demonstration, I didn't use those cognitive skills, but certainly in real life, in interactive psychotherapy, you can work with those cognitions. So I could have said, looked at that should or that imperative and did the imperative increases anxiety. But for the purposes of this, I was focusing mostly on behaviors using an operant conditioning model. So thank you very much, Karunakar, for portraying Raju. And I hope that this was a useful demonstration. And now the next video will be on how to change actions.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.